Ladies and gentlemen, have you noticed that in a world where love is just one swipe away, people are more insecure than ever? We have endless options, constant access, and yet we've never felt more uncertain about where we stand. One text can make your heart race, and one silence can ruin your entire day. We've traded connection for confusion, validation for vulnerability, and attention for affection. Modern dating isn't just breaking hearts, it's breaking confidence. But what if the problem isn't love itself? What if it's the way we've been taught to chase it? And ladies and gentlemen, we live in a time where connection has never been easier, and yet true connection has never felt so rare. We have endless ways to meet people, infinite choices, and constant access. But the strange irony of modern dating is that while we are more connected than ever before, we've never felt more uncertain, more anxious, or more insecure about where we stand with the people we meet. We scroll through faces, swipe through options, and text people we barely know, yet deep down, many of us feel more alone than ever. And modern dating has trained us to value attention over intention. We chase validation instead of connection. We measure our worth by how fast someone replies, how long they viewed our story, or whether they used a heart emoji or just a thumbs up. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting because it turns love into a competition, affection into a scoreboard, and dating into a performance. You're no longer getting to know someone, you're auditioning for approval. You're not asking, do I like this person? You're wondering, do they like me enough to keep me? And the worst part is, this constant uncertainty makes us doubt ourselves. We start to think that if they pull away, we did something wrong. If they don't text back, we must not be interesting enough. If they start following someone new, we must not be attractive enough. We've allowed other people's inconsistency to define our self-worth. But here's the truth. Modern dating didn't make you insecure. It exposed the insecurities that were already there. It magnified them through comparison, through rejection, through the endless cycle of almost connections that never become anything real. And we've been conditioned to believe that love is a game of who cares less. We're told not to text too soon, not to double message, not to show too much interest, because if we do, we lose power. But love isn't about power, it's about connection, and yet we've turned it into a tug of war between vulnerability and fear. We hold back because we're scared to be hurt, but by holding back, we make it impossible to be seen. So we end up stuck, half in, half out, wanting intimacy but terrified of rejection, and we go on dates pretending to be more chill than we are. We say, I'm just going with the flow, when what we really mean is, I'm scared to ask for what I want. We tell ourselves, I don't want to seem too needy, when what we really want is reassurance, and we call it independence, but deep down, it's fear in disguise. Because somewhere along the way, we started believing that needing someone, or even wanting clarity, is weakness. But it's not. Wanting to be chosen, wanting to feel secure, wanting effort, those are not insecurities. Those are basic human needs, and modern dating has made people feel replaceable. You can be talking to someone one night and see them online the next day liking someone else's photo. You can have an amazing date, feel a real spark, and then watch them disappear without a word. And in that silence, your mind becomes your worst enemy. You replay every moment, wondering what you said wrong, what you could have done differently. You start to question your worth, not because of what happened, but because of how quickly someone made you feel like you didn't matter. But here's something we forget. People's inability to show up for you says nothing about your value. It says everything about their capacity. The way someone treats you doesn't determine your worth. It reveals their readiness. Just because someone isn't capable of love right now doesn't mean you're unlovable. And yet, modern dating has made us personalize rejection to the point where we equate silence with failure, disinterest with inadequacy, and ghosting with proof that we're not enough. And the truth is, we've become addicted to potential. We meet someone, and instead of seeing them for who they are, we fall for who they could be. We see glimpses of effort, fragments of connection, moments of intimacy, and we build stories around them. We hold on, hoping they'll change, hoping they'll realize what they have, hoping the story will finally make sense. But most of the time, it doesn't. And every time we chase potential instead of reality, we teach ourselves to settle for uncertainty. We teach ourselves to mistake chaos for passion and inconsistency for chemistry. And we start to crave the highs and lows because stability feels boring compared to the adrenaline of unpredictability. We call it excitement, but what it really is anxiety disguised as love. We think the person who makes us question everything must be the one who makes us feel alive. But love isn't meant to confuse you, it's meant to ground you. It's not supposed to leave you checking your phone every 5 minutes or wondering what you did wrong. Real love brings peace, not panic, and modern dating has made vulnerability feel dangerous. We live in a culture that praises detachment. If you care too much, you're clingy. If you want consistency, you're too demanding. If you speak up about your needs, you're too emotional. But the truth is, those who are brave enough to be honest about what they feel are the ones who build real connections. Pretending not to care might protect your ego, but it won't protect your heart. The people who get what they want in love aren't the ones who play the best games, they're the ones who know what they deserve and aren't afraid to walk away from what doesn't give it. And you see, modern dating makes people insecure because it's full of uncertainty. But the only way to survive it is to become certain of yourself. You have to know what you bring to the table before you sit down. You have to know your value before someone else questions it. Because when you know your worth, ghosting doesn't destroy you, mixed signals don't confuse you, and silence doesn't scare you. You stop chasing clarity from people who benefit from keeping you uncertain, and there's power in walking away from almost. There's strength in saying, "This isn't enough for me," not because you're entitled, but because you're aware. Because you finally understand that love isn't meant to make you question yourself, it's meant to make you feel seen. You can't find security in someone else until you've built it within yourself. Because when you have that foundation, you no longer need someone to choose you to feel valuable. You already know you are. And the real danger of modern dating isn't that people don't want love. It's that they've forgotten what love actually feels like. Love isn't breadcrumbing, it's not guessing, it's not anxiety disguised as excitement, it's effort, consistency, respect, and peace. It's being with someone who makes you feel safe to be yourself, not someone who keeps you wondering if you're too much or not enough. And so yes, modern dating can make people insecure, but only if they forget who they are. When you remember that your value isn't determined by someone else's interest, you stop being afraid of losing people. You realize that losing someone who can't give you what you deserve isn't a loss, it's a release. You stop seeing rejection as proof you're unworthy and start seeing it as redirection towards something real. And because at the end of the day, confidence in love isn't about being chosen, it's about choosing yourself first. It's about setting the standard, not lowering it to fit someone's inconsistency. It's about knowing that you don't need to chase love when you are already enough as you are. And that's where everything begins to change, when you stop trying to be chosen and start choosing. Because the truth is, most people never make that shift. They spend years chasing people who give them crumbs, hoping that one day those crumbs will turn into commitment. They wait for someone else to see their worth before they see it themselves, but that's not love. That's waiting for permission to feel valuable. You don't need permission. You don't need someone's validation to make your feelings legitimate. You don't need their consistency to confirm your beauty, your strength, or your worthiness. And the reason modern dating feels so draining is because it's filled with uncertainty, and we keep placing our peace in the hands of people who haven't earned that kind of trust. We give strangers emotional access to us, and then we're shocked when they mishandle it. But not everyone deserves to know your heart. Not everyone deserves your vulnerability. That doesn't mean you close off. It means you learn discernment. You learn to give energy to people who show up, not to people who make you guess. You start to see that the ones who are meant for you won't make you chase clarity. They'll create it with you. And modern dating thrives on confusion. It wants you to believe that being unsure is part of the process, that mixed signals are normal, that games are necessary. But uncertainty is not a requirement for attraction. You can have mystery and still have honesty. You can have passion and still have peace. The only reason confusion feels exciting is because we've been taught to associate chaos with care. Someone's inconsistency feels intense because it keeps us craving resolution, but true connection doesn't need to keep you guessing. It invites you in. It gives you space to breathe. It allows you to exhale instead of holding your breath waiting for the next text. And we've built a culture that glorifies almost relationships. Situationships, talking stages, we're not labeling it yet. We've normalized the in-between. And because we've normalized it, people are terrified to ask for more. They'd rather have something than risk losing everything. But here's the hard truth. When you accept almost, you teach people that you're okay with less. When you keep giving your time, your body, your energy to someone who won't commit, you're not proving your loyalty. You're proving your fear of being alone. And the moment you stop confusing patience with self-neglect, everything changes. And it's not about demanding perfection. It's about requiring reciprocity. You deserve to be with someone who makes effort without being reminded, who gives reassurance without being asked, who shows up because they want to, not because they feel pressured to. You don't have to chase someone who wants to be caught. You don't have to overanalyze texts from someone who's serious about you because they'll make their intentions known. The people who are right for you don't make you feel like you're competing for their attention. They make you feel safe in their presence. And modern dating has made us forget the beauty of slow connection. Everything is fast, fast swipes, fast texts, fast chemistry, and yet the faster it goes, the less real it feels. We've lost patience for getting to know someone's soul. We rush to intimacy before we've built emotional trust, and then we wonder why everything falls apart. We're not falling in love, we're falling into fantasy. We mistake attraction for compatibility, desire for depth, and instant gratification for genuine connection. But love takes time. It takes patience, curiosity, and honesty. It takes being willing to see beyond the highlight reel and learn who someone truly is when no one's watching. And that's why so many people feel insecure today. It's not because they're broken. It's because the dating culture around them is built on surface-level validation. It's built to make you feel like you're never enough, so you keep seeking more likes, more matches, more attention. But attention isn't intimacy. Someone can desire you without respecting you. They can text you every night without caring about you. They can say everything you want to hear without meaning a word of it. And that's why you have to stop confusing effort with intention. Effort can be temporary, intention is consistent, and you can tell a lot about someone not by how they act when they want you, but by how they act when they already have you. The real test of character isn't how charming someone is on the first date. It's how they handle your honesty, your boundaries, your emotions. Do they listen? Do they care? Do they make you feel safe enough to be real? Because modern dating is full of people who want connection but don't want accountability. They want the benefits of love without the work of it. They want to be adored but not responsible for how they make others feel. And if you're not careful, you'll end up giving your best to someone who only ever gave you half. And that's why the most powerful thing you can do in today's world is raise your standards not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. You don't have to lower your expectations just because others can't meet them. The right person won't call your needs too much. They'll call them clear. They'll see your strength as something to protect, not something to exploit. They'll match your energy instead of draining it. Because love isn't about changing yourself to be loved. It's about being yourself and being loved for it. And that begins with how you treat yourself. If you keep showing up for people who never show up for you, you start teaching yourself that your love doesn't matter. But when you finally start honoring your own energy, when you stop chasing people who give you confusion instead of clarity, you start sending a different message to the world. You begin to attract people who value what you value. You begin to see that the love you give isn't something to prove, it's something to protect. And modern dating can make you insecure, yes, but only if you keep outsourcing your worth. The moment you realize that your peace, your confidence, your happiness are yours to protect, you stop handing them over to people who haven't earned them. You stop letting someone's inconsistency ruin your day. You stop making their silence mean something about your value. You stop chasing love and start creating it. And because love isn't just something you find, it's something you become. When you show up as someone who's grounded, self-aware, and whole, you change the kind of energy you attract. You stop needing people to validate you because you already validate yourself. You stop begging for attention because you're already full. And in that place of fullness, you become magnetic, not because you're chasing love, but because you embody it. And when you become whole, you stop fearing rejection because you understand that rejection is redirection. You start to see that when something doesn't work out, it's not because you're unworthy, it's because it wasn't aligned. And instead of obsessing over what went wrong, you start focusing on what's right for you. You become grateful for endings because they clear space for beginnings. You stop needing people to complete you because you're already complete, and from that energy, everything changes. You start to attract people who are emotionally mature, who communicate clearly, who value depth over games. You start to see that real intimacy isn't built on mystery, it's built on mutual understanding. You stop settling for almost and start demanding more, not because you're hard to please, but because you finally know what peace feels like, and you refuse to trade it for chaos. And the truth is, modern dating can't make you insecure if you've done the work to become secure within yourself. The world can be chaotic, but your heart doesn't have to be. You can exist in the middle of all that noise and still move with clarity, still love deeply, still trust again. Because your strength isn't in your ability to avoid pain, it's in your ability to keep your heart open despite it. You can be discerning without being cold. You can be strong without being hard. You can be open without being naive. And the real power comes when you stop reacting to how others treat you and start responding from who you are. When you stop mirroring their inconsistency and start embodying your own stability. When you stop trying to convince someone to stay and start walking away with your dignity intact. That's not bitterness, that's self-respect. That's love directed inward where it should have been all along. And because when you master that, you realize something beautiful. The people who are meant for you won't make you question your value. They won't confuse you, belittle you, or make you earn affection. They'll meet you where you are. They'll match your peace, not disturb it. They'll see your vulnerability not as a weakness, but as a strength. And that's when love finally feels the way it's supposed to, calm, steady, real. And when love finally feels calm and steady, that's when you realize how unnatural chaos had become. You start to see how long you've mistaken anxiety for excitement, how long you've confused unpredictability with passion. Because we live in a culture that rewards the chase more than the commitment. It praises the thrill of pursuit, but forgets the peace that comes when two people actually choose each other. And for a long time, you might have thought that peace meant boredom, that if something wasn't making you overthink, it wasn't real. But peace isn't boring, it's safe. It's the foundation that allows love to grow instead of constantly collapse. And modern dating has conditioned us to live in a state of constant comparison. Every time you open your phone, you're reminded that there are thousands of other people out there. That someone could swipe left on you in a second. That you could be replaced before you've even been truly seen. And that constant awareness chips away at your confidence. It makes you question what makes you special. But the truth is, you can't compete for love. Because real connection isn't about being better than the next person. It's about being genuine enough that someone sees your heart and says, "That's what I've been looking for." And you don't need to perform to be loved. You don't need to be the funniest, most attractive, or most successful person in the room. You just need to be present. You just need to show up as someone who is willing to connect without pretending, without filtering every word, without trying to curate your personality like an online profile. Authenticity has become rare, and that's why it's so magnetic. Because when you stop performing and start being, you attract people who are ready to meet you there. But the problem is, modern dating teaches us to protect our image more than our emotions. We're told to look unbothered, to stay mysterious, to always keep the upper hand. We're told to hide how we feel because showing emotion might scare someone away. So we silence our truth, we bite our tongue, and we pretend we're fine with things that hurt us. But that silence doesn't make you stronger, it makes you smaller. You shrink yourself every time you pretend something doesn't bother you when it does. You rob yourself of authenticity when you prioritize being liked over being understood. And we have to unlearn this idea that love is something we win. Love isn't a game to conquer, it's a mirror that reflects who we are. If you approach it with fear, it shows you fear. If you approach it with openness, it shows you possibility. But you can't experience that if you're too busy guarding your heart behind walls of pride. You can't build intimacy without vulnerability. You can't experience closeness without risk. And yet, that's exactly what makes love powerful. It requires courage. Not the kind of courage that shouts, but the quiet kind that whispers, "I'm willing to be seen." And the people who find peace in love are the ones who stop needing certainty before they show up. They stop waiting for guarantees. They understand that rejection might happen, that not everyone will reciprocate, that heartbreak is possible, but they choose to love anyway. Because they know that closing themselves off only guarantees loneliness. You can't protect yourself from pain and still expect to feel connection. You can't play small in love and expect to experience depth, and modern dating has made us obsessed with control. We want to know where things are going, how the other person feels, what the outcome will be, but connection doesn't grow in control. It grows in trust. It grows when you stop trying to force things to happen and start allowing them to unfold. The right connection doesn't require pressure. It feels effortless, not because it's perfect, but because both people are aligned in intention. That's what real security feels like, not knowing every answer, but knowing you're both choosing each other in the moment. And the truth is, insecurity in dating doesn't come from not being loved, it comes from not being seen. We can receive attention and still feel invisible when that attention doesn't acknowledge our essence. You could have hundreds of likes, messages, compliments, and still feel empty if none of it reaches your heart. Because love isn't about quantity, it's about depth. One genuine connection is worth more than 1,000 shallow ones. But you can't find depth if you're constantly chasing stimulation. You can't feel love if you're always seeking proof of it. And when you start to truly value yourself, something incredible happens. You stop chasing what isn't yours. You stop fighting for people to stay. You stop begging for closure from those who left, because you realize that peace is more valuable than presence. You understand that love isn't supposed to make you lose yourself. It's supposed to help you become more of who you are. And if someone's love requires you to silence your needs, to walk on eggshells, to keep shrinking, then it's not love, it's control dressed as connection. And one of the greatest lies modern dating tells us is that we have to play by its rules to survive. That we have to be colder, tougher, more detached. But detachment doesn't protect you. It just disconnects you from your own heart. What actually protects you is discernment, the ability to see clearly, the strength to say no to what isn't for you. The confidence to believe that letting go doesn't mean you failed. It means you made space for what's real. And every time you stop chasing, every time you choose peace over chaos, every time you honor your boundaries, you are rewriting the story of your love life. You are teaching yourself that love doesn't have to hurt to feel real, that you can be soft and still strong, that you can care deeply and still walk away when something isn't right, because strength isn't about how much you can endure, it's about how much you refuse to settle for less than you deserve. And we often think we need to be healed before we can love again, but healing isn't a destination, it's a way of being. You don't have to be perfect to be loved. You just have to be honest about where you are. You have to be willing to communicate instead of assume, to express instead of suppress. The right person won't need you to hide your past. They'll hold space for it. They'll understand that your scars don't make you difficult, they make you human. And maybe that's the shift we need in modern dating, to start valuing humanity over perfection, to stop trying to impress and start trying to connect, to stop focusing on how to get someone and start asking, do we bring out the best in each other? Because that's what love is supposed to do. It's supposed to help you grow, not lose yourself. It's supposed to make you braver, not more afraid. And when you find that kind of connection, you'll notice something beautiful. The insecurities that once ruled you start to fade. Not because the other person fixed them, but because love reflected back to you what was already within you. Their consistency amplifies your confidence. Their presence quiets your doubts. Their peace reminds you what it feels like to be safe again. That's what happens when two people who have done the work to love themselves come together. They don't complete each other, they complement each other. And modern dating may have taught us fear, but it can also teach us freedom, if we let it. Because every disappointment, every ghosted conversation, every heartbreak is a lesson in clarity. It's teaching you what you want, what you won't tolerate, and what real love feels like when it arrives. And once you see the difference, you'll never mistake inconsistency for chemistry again. You'll never call confusion connection. You'll never beg for effort because you'll know that real love doesn't need convincing. It shows up. And when you finally experience that, you'll realize that modern dating never took your confidence. It just revealed where you left it. You'll see that every rejection wasn't a reflection of your worth, but a redirection toward alignment. You'll recognize that love isn't something that finds you when you're perfect. It finds you when you're ready to stop pretending. Because authenticity is what draws real love in. The moment you stop hiding, love knows where to find you. And when love knows where to find you, that's when you begin to understand how much of this journey has always been about you, not them. For so long, you might have been waiting for someone to choose you, to see you, to make you feel enough. But what if the entire time life was waiting for you to see yourself? What if all the heartbreak, all the confusion, all the rejection wasn't punishment, it was preparation? Every moment of uncertainty taught you how to trust yourself more. Every person who walked away taught you how to stay grounded in your own worth. Every situation that didn't work out was shaping you into someone who no longer needs chaos to feel alive. And because somewhere along the way, we all fall into the trap of believing that love has to hurt to mean something. We start equating emotional turbulence with passion, and we think that if something feels easy, it must not be real. But love isn't meant to be a roller coaster, it's meant to be a rhythm. It's not about the rush, it's about the reassurance. It's not about the constant spark, it's about the steady flame that stays lit even on difficult days. Modern dating, however, thrives on instability. It convinces us that the high of being wanted for a moment is more important than the peace of being valued for a lifetime. And that's why so many people find themselves stuck in a loop, craving attention, getting it, losing it, then craving it again. It becomes a cycle of addiction, not affection. Every notification becomes a hit of dopamine, every text a validation of existence. But love is not meant to be a drug, it's meant to be a grounding force. You're not supposed to feel anxious waiting for someone's attention. You're supposed to feel calm knowing where you stand, and yet we keep accepting anxiety as the price of connection. We keep calling inconsistency normal, but nothing about confusion is romantic. You don't need to earn someone's effort. You don't need to chase someone's commitment. The right connection won't make you question whether you're wanted. It will make you feel it without needing proof. And the truth is, most people are not emotionally unavailable because they don't care. They're unavailable because they're afraid. Afraid to be seen, afraid to lose control, afraid to feel deeply. But if you spend your life chasing people who are afraid of love, you'll always end up feeling unworthy of it. You can't convince someone to be ready. You can't teach them how to show up if they don't want to. You can't force love out of someone who's still running from themselves. All you can do is choose differently. Choose people who are capable of the same emotional depth that you offer. Choose peace over potential. Choose reciprocity over resistance. And that starts with how you treat yourself in the waiting. Because the time between heartbreak and healing is where most people lose themselves. They think that being alone means they've failed. But solitude is not a punishment, it's where you rebuild your confidence. It's where you remember your value without anyone else's reflection. It's where you get to redefine what love means to you before you ever give it again. The quiet after the storm isn't emptiness, it's clarity. It's the moment you finally hear your own voice after years of trying to be heard by someone else. And modern dating has taught people to fear being alone because it glorifies constant connection. You're made to believe that if you're not talking to someone, matching with someone, or in a situation with someone, you're falling behind. But that's a lie. There's nothing powerful about having attention that's scattered and shallow. What's powerful is learning to sit with yourself and feel whole. What's powerful is not needing someone to distract you from your own company. Because once you reach that level of peace, you no longer settle for relationships that disturb it. And you begin to see love differently. You no longer crave the spark that burns out fast. You crave the connection that builds slowly. You start recognizing red flags not as warnings to ignore, but as signs to leave sooner. You stop romanticizing potential and start valuing consistency. You begin to notice that the energy you bring into dating changes everything. When you show up from a place of lack, you attract more confusion. But when you show up from a place of fullness, you attract stability, because love meets you at your level of self-worth. And the more you know who you are, the less interested you become in proving it to others. You stop auditioning for love and start inviting it. You stop negotiating your boundaries and start living by them. You stop trying to make people choose you and start realizing that being chosen isn't the goal, being respected is. When you have that kind of strength, rejection doesn't destroy you anymore. It simply redirects you toward alignment. You stop chasing explanations from people who can't even explain themselves. You stop replaying conversations, wondering what you could have done differently, because you understand that love doesn't require self-betrayal to work. And modern dating has made people forget that love is not found in the pursuit, it's found in the presence. It's in the moments when you're fully seen, fully understood, and still accepted. It's in the effort someone gives when no one's watching. It's in the quiet consistency that doesn't need to announce itself. That's where intimacy lies, not in the grand gestures, not in the posts or the stories, but in the simple moments where someone chooses to stay. But the only way to find that kind of love is to stop running from yourself, to stop numbing your loneliness with temporary connections, to stop filling your time with people who only occupy space but never bring peace, because every time you settle for less, you send a message to your heart that it's not worth more. And your heart listens. It starts to believe that uncertainty is normal, that love should always feel like guessing. But deep down, you know it's not true. Deep down, you crave something steady, something honest, something that doesn't leave you questioning yourself every night. And the only way to get there is to start honoring that craving instead of silencing it. And love won't arrive when you've perfected yourself. It arrives when you've accepted yourself. When you're no longer hiding behind filters, behind masks, behind the need to appear okay. When you can say, this is who I am, this is what I want, this is what I deserve, without apologizing for it, because the person who's meant for you will find comfort in your truth, not fear in it. They'll be drawn to your clarity because it reflects their own. That's what alignment looks like. Two people who don't need to play games because they've both outgrown them. And maybe that's the real evolution of love in this modern world, not finding someone who completes you, but finding someone who complements the completeness you've already built. Someone who doesn't take from your peace but adds to it. Someone who sees your independence and doesn't feel threatened by it. Someone who doesn't make you question your worth but reminds you of it when you forget. That's not fantasy. That's what happens when you refuse to settle for almost. And so many people are afraid that if they stop settling, they'll end up alone. But being alone with your peace is so much better than being together in your confusion. Because loneliness fades when you fill your life with purpose, but insecurity grows when you fill it with half-hearted love. It's better to wait for the right energy than to accept the wrong one just to fill silence, because silence heals, but the wrong person drains. And you owe it to yourself to stop chasing closure from people who can't even be honest. You owe it to yourself to stop trying to make sense of why someone couldn't love you the way you deserved. Some people can't meet you because they haven't met themselves. Some people can't love you because they're still trying to survive their own chaos. And that has nothing to do with your value. The lesson isn't that you were unworthy, it's that they were unready. And once you understand that, you stop taking their absence personally, and modern dating might have made you more cautious, but it can also make you more intentional. You start to see that love isn't about who you attract, it's about who you choose. You realize that your energy is a filter. When you carry self-respect, you naturally repel anyone who doesn't align with it. You stop needing to prove your worth to people who were never capable of recognizing it. And that's when you find peace, the kind that comes not from being chosen, but from choosing yourself over and over again until the right person arrives and says, I see you. And you can finally say, I see me too.